That way the conversation doesn't just end because she's like, I don't know. And then you're frustrated and you're like, whatever, and you walk away. Like, that's the worst thing that you could do because nothing came out of that. And you have to understand that she may tell you, I don't know, out of discomfort. Welcome to What I Love About Sex, where some incredible guests and I, Steph Kanowski, will be bringing you the tools for improving your sex life with topics such as sex issues with your partner, sexual self-confidence, premature ejaculation, sexual shame, masturbation, sharing your fetishes, orgasmic pleasure, and more. Sex is still so taboo, and I personally believe that by improving our understanding and communication skills around sex, we can enhance our own self-pleasure as well as deepening our long-term romantic relationships. So listen in, try to stay open-minded, and let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I want to talk to you today about pleasure because I hear this question all the time. How do I pleasure her? How do I best pleasure my woman? What's one thing that will turn any woman on? And my answer is communication with that woman, because communication leads to the answers you need to know how to pleasure her specifically. Everyone's different, and I feel like a lot of you guys want to play this guessing game of like, I want to just know what to do to her. I don't want to have to ask. I should know. But you really shouldn't know because we're all so different. And yeah, there are the obvious general erotic zones of the body, like the genitals, you got the nipples, maybe the neck, areas like that we just assume will bring pleasure if we bring touch or kisses to that area. And it's like, we can't guess that every woman wants to be touched in a certain area the same way with the same pressure. So to not guess and not play that game of like trying to prove that you know without asking her, you got to ask her. And asking her actually shows her that you care. So if you're thinking about it like, all right, if I have to ask, that makes me feel like an idiot. Think more of it like, I'm going to ask. That makes me come across as though I really care about this and I prioritize her pleasure. And I want to be sure. I want to be confident when I'm giving her pleasure. Because for the most part, the guys who assume and play the guessing game, they don't get it completely right because there's no communication. And then they keep doing that same thing. And if she doesn't speak up, which unfortunately a lot of women don't, then he's just not doing what she needs and she gets bored of him. And, I'm not saying this is the guy's fault. There needs to be communication on both parts. But if you can control that communication and take initiative on it, it's best to do so. You're probably like, right, well, how is that worded, right? How do I exactly ask her? Basically, first what I want to say is that you want to communicate with her about what makes her feel the most connected to you, which is the emotional level, right? And pleasured by you, which is more sexual. And it's understanding that connection leads to pleasure. The majority of women need to feel emotionally connected to you in order to want pleasure and desire that sexual connection. It can come out as simple as, I noticed that you tend to like when I do this. Is that what makes you feel most pleasured when we're getting into it, when we're about to have sex? What brings you the most pleasure that I've done? What brings you the most pleasure that I haven't done yet, but you want me to do? These are great ways of getting to the actual answer that you're looking for. It's very direct. What things do I do to you that bring you the most pleasure? What things don't I do that you would like me to do? Same with the connectedness on the emotional level, right? What makes you feel most connected to me that I do? What about what I don't do that you would like me to do to feel more connected? And then, bam, you get these answers that are so specific. Like she may say, well, I love when we have dinner together without our cell phones. That I feel so connected because we look at each other a lot, we laugh, we catch up on our days, we share what's in our heads, and it's just this really great quality time that I treasure with you. And maybe you didn't notice that. Maybe you didn't think that was that big of a deal because to you, that's not the major point of connection, but it is for her, right? So that's why we can't assume, because things that make us feel connected as women and men will be different for our partner, whoever our partner is. There's always and sometimes it overlaps, of course. Sometimes you feel very similar, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's like, wow, I didn't know that mattered to you so much. I didn't realize that made you feel so connected to me. I just thought we were having dinner and talking. I didn't think of it like that. This is when you come in and also share your thoughts of, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel connected most to you when we go for a walk during the day or at night when we're done with work. And in terms of pleasure, I love when you grab my balls, when you give me head. It feels so good and I get so turned on, and sometimes I think about it and I even masturbate to it because it's so hot and it just brings so much pleasure all over my body. So see how that's specific? It's so specific. So now she knows, okay, wow, he really likes when I grab his balls. I didn't know if he was that into it, but obviously now I'm going to do it more, right? Because we're giving each other specific direction. Just like if you ask her, what brings you the most pleasure sexually that I do? Maybe she'll be like, oh, I love when you kiss my neck. It's so hot and it just it turns me on and gets me so in the moment. Maybe when you ask, hey, what's something that would turn you on that I haven't done yet? And she says something like, I really like my feet massaged. I didn't really want to ask you because I feel like it's kind of weird, but it's just like a turn on for me. It just relaxes me so much. And because you did it once, our whole relationship, and it was just so sexy, and it just put me in the mood. Like it just calmed my whole body down and started just preparing me to want to be with you. Now, I'm sure taking that information, you're going to be like, oh shit, I should do that more, because obviously that's direct turn on for her. So see how you having that specific information now brings more confidence in your sex life with your partner, because it's like, I know that if I do this, she will have a reaction like this. Maybe not every single time, but even if you do it, she knows that she told you about it now. It's out in the open, so she will appreciate you even initiating. This is why we have to share these questions with each other and know that direction and being so direct and specific gives us both confidence. When we're not playing guessing games and we're not stuck in our head and we're confident, we can be more in the moment. We can enjoy our sex life more. We can have more fun. We could try more things because we're not afraid to communicate. We're used to it, right? We've done it. And overall, it just feels better for both of us, for both people in that relationship. What it also does is it creates a higher level of trust, because it's like, okay, I know I can share something that he's not doing that I would like to without him getting hurt, right? He's not going to get butthurt about it. I can tell him that I'd like him to start doing something. It gives us freedom. It gives her freedom to come to you and say, hey, can you start doing this more? Or can you do this? I think it would really turn me on. I think I'd really like it. And vice versa, right? You can go to her and do the same thing. The point is getting rid of the assumptions, getting rid of the guessing games so that you feel more confident and you both get your needs met. And you know that there's this open level of communication now. When it comes to pleasure, I know a lot of guys have gotten the response of her just being like, well, I don't know. I don't know what brings me sexual pleasure. I don't know what you can do that you've never done. I don't know, right? And you get hit with the I don't know, and that could be really frustrating, because if you're trying to get a specific answer for confidence, right, and some direction and some certainty, and she's just, I don't knowing you to death, then what do? What I often tell guys to do is to help her think and help give her ideas. Like, well, what about when I do this to you? Does that bring you a lot of pleasure? Or what if we tried this? I was thinking we could try this new thing. Do you think that would bring you more pleasure if we got into this? So you're coming up with ideas and asking her if those ideas would possibly work. And then you say, okay, well, how about we try it next time? And then she's like, okay. So that's a good way to open up communication, even if you're getting the I don't knows. That way the conversation doesn't just end because she's like, I don't know. And then you're frustrated and you're like, whatever. And you walk away. Like, that's the worst thing that you could do because there's nothing came out of that. And you have to understand that she may tell you, I don't know, out of discomfort, right? If you guys aren't used to talking about this stuff and she feels a certain way about sex and she has trouble communicating around it, it may be because she's embarrassed, there's some shame, there's just discomfort from never doing it. So that's why it's good to see it that way, that that's a huge possibility. And to look at it like, all right, let me help her out. Let me help her out with this. If you can see it from that angle, you're much more likely to not get so frustrated and to help her out. One way that I encourage you guys to encourage your woman to do is to masturbate and have some time for herself, especially if she's an I don't know partner. All right? Because if she doesn't know what brings her the most pleasure, she doesn't know what about her body she loves touched most and licked most, like she's just clueless, right? Then masturbation is the key to doing that, to exploring yourself and figuring that out in an environment where there's no pressure. All right. There's no expectations of a partner. There's no perceived performance, like you're not in that headspace of like, okay, well, someone else is here, so I'm not the only one. And it adds an element of pressure, whether you want it to or not, whether you're in a comfortable relationship or not, it still adds something there that doesn't give you the freedom to just explore and do what you want to do when you want to do it. Because there's someone else to consider, so it makes sense. So encouraging your partner to masturbate and take time for herself is a great way to help her learn. Hopefully by you doing this, she can also encourage you or understand why it's also important for you to masturbate and take time for yourself. One way that she can enjoy masturbation more or make it easier for her to explore is to play with toys and introduce sex toys into your relationship. A toy I highly recommend that she can start with, and you both can also use together, is the Lalo Dot. The Lalo Dot is a little pleasure massager. It's shaped like this, like it kind of comes to a point. It's a vibrator that comes to this, obviously not a sharp point, a round little tiny tip that is so precise in terms of where you're putting it on the body so that it doesn't numb the area like other vibrators can, right? Especially on her clit. So if she's playing with this toy and she's just putting that tip in certain areas, she's not going to desensitize herself in that moment, and it will keep the pleasure lasting longer. This little vibrator is not only for her clit, it could be for any part of the body. Some women use it for behind their earlobes because that gets them going. Some women use it around their nipples because that stimulation gets them going. You can use it down the spine. You can use it around the lips. Wherever, any erogenous zone that makes sense is the best place to use it, right? So you can use it together also. And I encourage that. I encourage her to use it by herself, the Lalo Dot, and then for you to use it on her and ask her what areas of stimulation felt best. And now you know, and you can use the toy to massage her in those areas. This is a great way to introduce toys for you to also not feel pressure around the toy and for her to feel freedom of self-exploration and also bringing some newness into the bedroom for you guys. So you can shop for the Lalo Dot right now. The link is in the description of this podcast. And don't forget to use Steph at checkout. That way you save a little bit. And enjoy the Lalo Dot. Let me know on Instagram how you guys love it, both of you. So ultimately, communication is the answer when it comes to best pleasuring her. As I stated, there are obvious pleasure zones that can make the guessing easy, right? The clit, the nipples. But even then, how much pressure on that area? For how long, right? Is there a hypersensitivity in that area where maybe it gets uncomfortable after a while? You won't know these things until you ask your partner and have a conversation about it. So start talking, bring some freedom in this area of your relationship so that there's no hidden signs and there's no anxiety, right? So much anxiety comes from not knowing and not feeling certain. Something I mentioned that's also really important, but I only briefly touched upon, is the importance of you knowing how you enjoy being pleasured most so that you can also communicate it with her. Make sure that this is a back and forth communication. It's not just all about her and getting specifics on her, but it's also letting her know what makes you feel most connected and what makes you feel the most pleasure. I would let her go first and then you share your answer. It will feel very natural that way, going back and forth. But it's important that you share just as much as she shares. All right, and finding areas of pleasure yourself will actually make you better at finding pleasure areas for her. Because if you get comfortable with yourself and you have these realizations, then you'll want to tell someone, and that someone will be your partner, most likely, right? And then if she finds realizations and explores herself and finds something or thinks about something, she's going to want to tell you. And now there's this openness and freedom to do so. So open communication is key. No guessing games, no assumptions. The best way to pleasure her is to ask her how she likes to be pleasured. All right, guys, hope this episode was helpful. Have your conversations with your woman. Check out the Lalo Dot. Like I said, it's in the description of this show. And have an amazing morning, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Talk to you soon. I hope this episode helped you. If it did, I would love for you to leave me an iTunes review. It would mean the world to me. You can also screenshot your favorite episodes and tag me on Instagram at Steph Ganowski. And before I go, remember, your sex life is as good as you make it out to be. Until next time.